These are chapter 19, verse 16. These are the verses that just soar. They're just like beyond inspirational. So, Noam, you'll read it. Read the posting first, Noam. Um, chapter 9, I don't know what page. What page is it, are you? 650, 657. Okay, Noam, you read it. No, Tesvav. Tezayin. Lo telech, right? Utamot Adam. Exactly. So this is a very relevant verse. Do not Otelach Rachil. What's a Rachil? Do not be a Rachil amongst your people. Well, that's how they translate it. That's what Rashi says. Do not be a gossip. We'll see why Rashi says the word Rachil means gossip. And do not stand by the blood of your friend. What does that mean? And then it says, I am God. So what does Lotelach Rachil mean? Rashi says, I say this relates because Rashi says the word Rachil is unusual. I don't know that it means gossip in any other context, but Rashi says here, Al Shem Shekol Meshachem Midanim, all those who instigate bad things, Umisaprei Lashon Hara, all those who say bad talk, they go to their friends' houses to spy out what bad they may see. Oh, Ma Yishmura, or what bad they may hear. And then they're going to go tell it in the marketplace. And they're called Hoche Rachil, those who go about gossiping, which is related to the word Hoche Rigila, or espyment in French. So Rashi is saying the word Rachil is related to a Ragil, like a Meragel, like a spy. Um, uh, so the Rashi says we're talking about a person who's a Yenta, and he's spreading around. I mean, Yenta doesn't have to be a woman; it could be a man or a woman. Yenta is a derogatory term, but it means this person is. I've seen many gossips, men and women. It's a very unattractive quality, so people should try to. We should all try to remove it from our behavior. And he says the word rachil always goes with telech. It goes with the word to go. So this is referring to a specific type of person who is going around to spread words. Today, you don't even have to go anywhere. You just go on your phone and you send off 10 texts or posts, and you've done a lot of damage with that. And the Targum says it's not connected to the word ragio, but it's connected to the word kortzin, which means winking. Basically, people, their practice was to eat in the house of one who received their words of gossip, and it was a sign of final affirmation that the words were authentic, can vouch for their truth. It's called eating of winking. They would wink together with their eyes, so that other people wouldn't know. That's how they were communicating. But either way, either if it's related to the words of winking or it's related to the word of gossiping, like miragel, the basic point is that this person is transferring information to different people. And this is a major sin. A major sin of spreading gossip amongst the people in the community. That's it's called destructive negative energy, and it's a horrible sin. And then what's the next words? Do not stand by the blood of your friend. So that kind of goes together. Do not gossip. And let's say you hear somebody else gossiping about your friend, and they're saying things which are not true. They're saying like, "Oh, this guy, he's a horrible human being." You say, "No, that's not true. That's not true." You could stop. You say, "Stop! I don't believe that." And you can like tell the person to stop doing that. Say, "Look, it's very hard to do because you don't want to be like you don't want to ruin your relationship with the person who's speaking. You don't want them to think they don't like you. But the that's what it means. Don't stand by the blood of your friend because when you gossip about somebody, you're basically killing them spiritually. Yeah. No, let's see what it means. Very good point. Grab a chumash, Judah. Yeah, yeah. It means both. It means both. But that's what Rashi says. Don't stand by the blood of your friend. To see his death, and you could save him. For example, if he's drowning in a river, or if an animal or bandits are coming upon him. But I would say this is also within that context. If somebody is going around saying Beryl Schmerl is a pervert, everybody needs to stay away from him, you're killing him. He's going to drown in not maybe not in water, but he's going to be drowning. And if it's not true, I mean, if it's true and you need to prevent it from doing damage, that's one thing. But if he's going around saying things that are just malicious and not helpful, then you should not stand by the blood of your friend. You should speak up. Found that? Okay, speak up, speak up. We're tell Norai and Judah what page you're on. No, I'm telling what page you're on. Yeah, I go. Speak up, my friend. Um, I don't think Rashi is saying that it's only literal. Right. Yeah, it's a very good point. It's a very good point. But I don't think that Rashi is saying it's only literal and not symbolic or not applied. But even if you want to say it's only literal, there are other sources which say that if you insult somebody, it's like killing them. So like you hurt somebody's feelings, it's like killing them. So for sure, if you gossip, like because their face changes color, face turns red, so it's like you killed them. That's what the Rabbeinu Yonah says. So therefore, certainly, if you're saying bad things about them and ruining their reputation, that's what it's saying. Yeah, I'm sorry, Noam, what were we saying? Yeah, it's like killing them. Were you raising your hand, David? Okay. Hold on 1 second. Hold on. Oh yeah. I just want to make sure that our minion is coming. All right, let's go on. Baruch Hashem. Who's gonna read the next pasuk? Who wants to? Who's volunteering? I mean, Norai's got a mouthful of pizza, so let them. Right. Yeah. Anybody volunteering? Judah. Okay, good. I like that.
What? Which?
17, chapter 19, verse 17. Yud Zayin. Lo tisna.
So, lo tisna et achita dio vagdata osea so Sophia et amitecha velo tisa amav pater.
So, lo tisna avchait. Excellent. Lo tisna tachicha b'lvavecha. Do not hate your brother in your heart. Do not hate your brother in your heart. You must rebuke your brother, your friend, and do not bear a sin. Yes, Judah, what were you saying? No, yeah, you're not allowed to hate your sister either. Your brother here doesn't mean only your brother. I mean, do you have any brothers? Just a sister? You're not allowed to hate her. Not allowed to hate your Judah. Um, so so do not hate your brother in your heart, and do not bear a sin. Meaning to say, but Rashi says, do not make his face pale by reproving him in public. So you're not allowed to uh, reprimand him in public. But I will say this: so we see from here, it's a biblical obligation to rebuke your friend. You have to rebuke your friend. But Rabbi Yisrael Salanter said, nowadays, nowadays this mitzvah doesn't apply. Rabbi Yisrael Salanter said, because we don't know how to rebuke effectively. We don't know how to do it. Nobody knows really how to rebuke. So since nobody knows how to rebuke, better not to do it than to do it the wrong way. Like you can only do it if you know what you're doing. Yeah, look up AI, Aryeh. What does Rabbi Yisrael Salanter say about the obligation to rebuke your friends? Yeah, David, you had a question? I cut you off.
Um, no, it's just the idea that you're not an obligation to be your friend is really, you know, what's your obligation to your friend? You know, to help them stay on the straight path, and so you know, you know,
So, so basically, you're saying let's do it in a positive way, not to tell them, listen, you're an idiot, you're wasting your life, you're just making the stupidest decisions. That's not going to work. What you're saying is just help them in a positive way. So you're saying don't rebuke, but help them. But you know how that's a good way to look at it. But do you know how Rabbi Zusha would rebuke someone? You know how Rabbi Zusha would rebuke? Anybody know? So Rabbi Zusha is Rabbi Melch's brother. What he would do is he would say, he would say when he saw somebody doing something wrong, all he would do is say out loud. Let's say he saw somebody uh, um, who wasn't let's say wasn't eating kosher. He would say, "Zusha, I'm such a sinner. Zusha is such a sinner. Zusha's not eating kosher. Zusha didn't watch what he put in his mouth." And the person, and he would criticize himself, and the other person would hear it, and the other person would say to himself, "Well, if Zusha, who's such a tzaddik, is criticizing himself, maybe I should start thinking about myself and see if I mean, if he's doing that, maybe I also need to look." So he wouldn't never criticize another person directly, because one time when he was a young student, he criticized somebody directly, and the Maggid of Mezrich told him that he could have like destroyed that person's life because he was so harsh on him. So that's why Zusha would rebuke himself and let other people hear, and that was his method. Ari, did you find anything?
yeah, it's just like you have to, if you don't do it, like actually well,
Yeah,
yourself, then if you you kind of question
exactly. And I'll say one more teaching about this, that this is from Reb Chaim Shmulevitz. Reb Chaim Shmulevitz, Sichos Musar, he says a powerful idea. He said, Penina, that Elkanah had two wives. One was called Penina, one was called Chana. Penina, the book of Shmuel, first chapter, said I think she had 7 children, and Chana had no children. And Penina was taunting Chana. And as a result of taunting Chana, Penina was punished severely, the Midrash says. But she was taunting Chana, you don't have any children. But the Midrash says Penina was a very righteous woman. Why was she taunting Chana? Because she was trying to tell her, don't be satisfied with your lot, like Chana giving up. Chana was like saying, okay, I'm not going to pray to Hashem for children. I'm not going to like push myself to get to the next, to try every angle. So Penina was doing the righteous, she was acting righteously. She was trying to help Chana become better. So why was she punished so severely? So Chaim Shmulevitz says, because if you rebuke somebody and you hurt them, even if you're doing it for the right reasons, let's say you're a coach and you're trying to get your student to really like be a better athlete. You're saying, you whatever, you fatso, you're never gonna win the championship like this. Get in there and like, so you hurt their feelings, but it's for a good purpose. You're trying to make them better. Chaim Shulavet says you're still going to, even though you're doing a good thing, and maybe you're even doing a necessary thing sometimes, you're going to be punished severely. Because you know what he said it's like? He says, Rahman al it's like, let's say there's a baby who falls into a fire, and you have to stick your hand in to save the baby from the fire, right? Did you do a mitzvah to save the baby? So what's going to happen to your hand? Your hand's going to burn, but you're doing a mitzvah. Why is your hand burning? Well, the fire doesn't care about the fact that you're doing the mitzvah. The fire doesn't care about that. The fire is an immediate reaction, a scientific reaction to sticking your hand in a fire as it's going to burn. So too, if you hurt somebody else's feelings, a scientific reaction is that you're going to be punished. It doesn't matter you have a good reason to do it, a good purpose. Maybe even it's a mitzvah. But if you hurt the person, doesn't matter. You're going to be punished. That's why Penina was punished severely, because even though she said, "I'm doing it for her own good," it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter that you do it for your own good. It's like sticking your hand in the fire. There's a chemical reaction. You hurt the person, you're going to feel it. And like parents have to realize this, and friends have to realize this, and teachers have to realize this, and people that no matter what, you're going to be punished severely if you hurt the person. David, did you have a question? See? Judah? You agree? Okay, good. Okay, so Nora, your turn to read. Lotikom. So this is the commandment about the prohibition of nikama. Do you know what nikama is? Anybody know what nikama? Revenge. Lotikom v'lotitar. V'lotitor. At Pnei Amecha, your people, ve'ahavta l'reacha kamocha. You heard of that phrase before, Judah? Ahavta l'reacha kamocha ani Hashem. So what is tikom and titor? What is that? How does it translate there in the English? Do not. I'm sorry, you read it. No. You read it. I got too excited about this pasuk. I got too excited. And yeah, you read the next one. But let me ask you a question. What's do not take revenge, and one is do not bear a grudge? What's the difference between taking revenge and bearing a grudge? What? Okay, it's interesting. Bearing a grudge, is even if you didn't take an action. So that's a very good point. Any other ideas here?
Maybe repeated actions as well as growth.
Okay, very nice, very nice. This is what Rashi says. This is a classic case from the Talmud. Classic case from the Midrash. It's a classic Rashi. You can share this with people you love. Taking revenge is you go to the person. Reuben goes to Shimon. He says, "Let me borrow your sickle." You know what a sickle is? You know what a sickle is? Yeah. So Reuben goes to Shimon and says, "Let me borrow your sickle," and Shimon says, "No, you can't borrow it." Next day, Shimon comes to Reuben. He says, "Let me borrow your axe." So what does Reuben say? He says, "I'm not going to lend you my axe because you didn't lend me your sickle." What's that called? That's called revenge. I'm not going to do this for you because you didn't do it for me. That's called revenge. What's called bearing a grudge? Rashi says, this is what's bearing a grudge. This is what's bearing a grudge. Bearing a grudge is, you go to Reuben. Reuben goes to Shimon and says, "Let me borrow your axe." Or Shimon says to Reuben, "Let me borrow your axe." And Reuben says, "Shimon, let me borrow your axe." Shimon says, "No, I'm not going to lend you my axe." The next day, Shimon goes back to Reuben and says, "Let me borrow your sickle." And Reuben says to him, what does Reuben say?
Yes.
He says, "Yes, I'm going to lend you my sickle." You know why? Because I'm not like you who didn't lend me your axe. You didn't lend me your axe, but I'll still lend you my sickle. Guess what? Is Reuben committing a sin? What's the sin? Yeah. Even though he's not, as Aryeh said, he's not doing an action. He's completely doing the right. He's lending it to him. Um, that's an excellent question. That's an excellent question. That what if you just thought it but didn't say it? From the Rashi, it seems to be saying if you said it, but it's a good point that maybe it's also if you thought it. What does AI say about that? Ask them to cite the sources. I can look because it's a very deep question. Because I can control myself from saying things, but I'm thinking things that I can't control. Yeah. Why? He could just lend it and not think bad thoughts. Hello, Thera. We're talking about bearing a grudge. We're talking about bearing a grudge. So you're not allowed to say it, but are you also allowed to think it? You can control your thoughts. What? There's something going on?
Okay, yeah, okay, you're gonna be like, yeah.
All right, well, I have to look it up. We'll look it up. But
Don't repeat it, but just let's expound on
so there is a conversation, there is a discussion about, let's say somebody needs to let off steam. Are you allowed to let him finish? You're allowed to let him finish as long as you are, if you think it, if he doesn't say it to you, it could be worse. And also, as long as you make sure to not believe it, to not believe what he's saying, which is very hard, which is very hard. All right, Nora, you read the next pasuk. All right, Kukotai, very good. Kukotai, Tishmaru, Bem Techa, go on. Very good, Norai. Excellent. Lo tarbia kula. It's chef, so have some cold pizza. There's cold pizza in the kitchen. Nah.
Can you stop trying to take my shirt like that?
Okay, so we added this debate yesterday about the cold pizza versus the hot pizza. That obviously cold pizza. Yeah, it's a machloka. Somebody didn't believe me. Tani didn't believe me that cold pizza is preferable by some people. Yeah.
No, I understand the appeal, but I was in my
Oh, right. That's you see, that's your Talmudic mind, Jonathan. Oh yeah, this is all the Talmud on it. Okay, let's talk about this commandment we just had. You're not allowed to lo tarbia kolayim, lo tarbia kolayim. You shall not mate your animal as kolayim. What does that mean? What does that mean? You should not mate your animal as kolayim. What does that mean? So basically, what it means is, are you allowed to take your sheep and mate it with a goat? You can't, you're not allowed to take your sheep and mate. But by the way, can a sheep and a goat have an offspring? A goat.
They're related.
They can have an offspring. You can look it up. It's called the geep.
Wait, what about the count?
It's a very good question. So my understanding is it only counts as two different species. But it's a good question. Maybe two different dog breeds is also. You guys are just unbelievable with your questions. That's the second like stumper I got today. First was Aryeh, the second was no rice. Now, my understanding is that Kalayim does not apply to two different dog breeds. But I gotta ask this question. I never thought about that. Because like there are some dogs that are closer to a fox or a wolf. Does Kalayim apply? Let me see. I can write everything into AI. Does Kalayim apply to two different dog breeds? And I'll say, cite your sources. What do you think they're going to say? What? My prediction is a dispute. Always. Okay, let's see. In Jewish law, generally does not apply. However, there's a specific famous discussion, so famous I didn't hear about it, regarding dogs that highlights a distinction between domestic and wild variety. Yeah. So the wolf, yeah, that's what they say. So generally speaking, because all domestic breeds are considered, like from Chihuahuas, the Great Danes are considered the same species, crossbreeding them is generally permitted. Wait, halacha generally defines species based upon physical characteristics and natural behavior rather than modern biological classifications. But the debate occurs in the Mishnah in Klayim, where it says the village dog, which is called a kofri or a wild dog. It says the wolf and the village dog and the fox, even though they resemble each other, they are Klayim. So we don't know what this is. A standard dog and a village dog are not Klayim because they're essentially the same. However, Rabbi Meir disagrees, arguing that they look and act differently. They should be treated as separate species. The Shulchan Aruch and Rambam rule in accordance with the sages against Rabbi Meir. The Rambam lists the wolf and dog as separate species, but does not forbid breeding different types of domestic dogs. Yeah, it's a very good question. So they say modern authorities confirm that different breeds of domestic dogs are considered one kind. Therefore, crossbreeding a poodle and a golden retriever to make a doodle golden does not violate Kalayim. I never knew that. Wow. All right. Every moment. What do you mean every day? Every second. Every second. What?
Why did you first breed?
Because you're only allowed to breed animals that look alike and act alike. But if the animals don't look alike and act alike, you're not allowed to crossbreed them. So the question is, are you allowed to crossbreed a wolf and a dog? Because they're somewhat related. So yeah, that's why I'm saying. So I would say today, don't crossbreed a wolf and a dog, but you can do a poodle and a golden retriever and make a golden poodle, or you can make you can crossbreed. What's another breed? No, we just said that you're not supposed to do that. I don't even know if foxes and dogs, I don't know if they can breed. They can?
Like,
Yeah. What do you say, Noah?
Would a crossbred animal be kosher, like a sheep?
A geese.
Like what you said?
A geep is.
And a sheep, would that be kosher? Because they're both kosher. Ooh.
Yeah, no. I think so. I think a sheep and a goat is kosher. The geep, it becomes a geep. Yeah. But a donkey and a horse, they make a mule. That's obviously not kosher. Okay. So anyway, a geep is. Has anybody here ever seen a geep? No, we're not allowed.